Hussbus bus stop.
Good morning, everybody. JP Hussey here of the Hussey Team Mortgage Advisors with this week's
Hussbus bus stop.
Anyway, it's an early morning here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, down here with some of my buddies on a golf trip. And believe it or not, it's about as cold as it is in Philadelphia area. But we're making the most of it. We're having fun. And wanted to talk a little bit about back in Pennsylvania and really most states right now, how a lot of, when you're buying a house, a lot of offers on those homes are going well over asking price. All right. We've talked a little bit about this before. Sellers have all the leverage right now. They kind of control the narrative, right? And as a buyer, you got to figure out how to sneak in there and figure out what's good for you to get the house and what's also best for you financially, right? So with this type of market, lenders and relationships with their client gets very important, right? You need to prepare for, if you go over asking price, what could happen. You have to run some numbers of what other options you may have, depending on the big thing right now, the appraisal, right? So that appraisal, just because you put an offer in on a home that's 50 grand over asking price, does not mean it's going to appraise there, and a low appraisal you can run into some issues. All right, so I want to go over and this can be confusing, right? Go over an example of a client of what we did with him, so he was actually prepared for the appraisal to come in low, but he really wanted the house, so he had to go over asking, and he had a little bit of cash saved, so we ran some scenarios, and it actually worked out very well financially for him because he knew what he was getting into from the beginning. Okay, so let's do a quick example. I'm going to try and go slow. I have to remember it as well on an early morning, Myrtle Beach with my buddies, right? So bear with me here, but it's almost like magic sometimes how the numbers work out when you structure it the right way. So anyway, we had our client. He had a budget of about $80K total out of pocket for everything, right? He lost out on a few homes. We ran a lot of different budgets beforehand of what could happen, blah, blah, blah. But he had $80K out of pocket. $540 purchase price, all right? So we're using most of that $80K because he wants his payment down, right? He wants to keep that payment down. So he needed about $75K with 10% down on $540 plus, and that includes closing costs, everything, all in. We deal with all in numbers. I'm not going to confuse you and say down payment this and then closing costs. No, let's add them all up. This is what it is, okay? So $75,000 out of pocket on a $540 purchase price, all right? In the beginning, before we put the offer in, we had to run scenarios so that if the appraisal came in much lower, right? And remember, lenders only lend off the lower of the two, right? The appraisal or the purchase price, right? So let's say an appraisal comes in on this scenario of 510, right? And the purchase price is 540. Lending's only going off the 510. You're going to need to figure out a way to get this extra 30 G's over to the seller, right? That's one thing people don't understand. It's the lower of the two. But anyway, let's get back to the scenario and I'll show you why. So the scenario was 540 purchase price, all right? Wanted about 75 or 80K out of pocket was the budget, right? Payment was just under $3,000 all in with taxes, insurance, all that jazz. Remember, all in numbers, only thing that matters is your payment, how much money I need, right? 80K out of pocket, came out to be 75K, all right? Under 3 G's. Anyway, appraisal comes back. But we prepared, we did some things. If it comes back, here's what we're gonna do. That was 10% down, mind you. Appraisal comes back around 517. Oh no, what do we do? Already prepared, right? Remember, lending goes off the lower of the two, appraisal or purchase price. So it comes in at 517. All we did was switch his program from 10% down on the 540 to 5% down, all right? So we're kind of building in that extra cash he needs to meet the 540, right? Build it in, and he actually came out all in money, 70K total out of pocket versus that 75, and payment was only up a little bit to around $3,000 on this new loan. But JP, how does that happen? Well, it's kind of like magic. But all we're doing is building it in instead of 10%, going 5%. And because now we're going off the appraisal value for the loan payment, the mortgage payment, the payment's lower than what it originally was. So it kind of all meets in the middle. Now, this isn't meant for everyone. You need a certain amount of cash. You have to qualify for that 5% down or 10% down, whatever it may be. But I've seen this more often than not, that actually if someone has a little bit of cash, right, a little bit, maybe not 20%, this is working in that 10 or 5% range, right? Seen it work out where the payment actually benefits the buyer and they need a certain amount of cash, and then they're not upset about paying over asking for a house that they really love. This house was a 10 out of 10 for this client. They were okay with paying over value, right? A house is only worth, the appraisal is an appraisal, but a house is worth what someone pays for it. You got me? So there's a big difference there of what an appraisal is and what someone's gonna pay for your house, right? So there are scenarios here. If you have to go over asking price, you really love that home, right? You want to get in it. Homes are going to continue to appreciate. That's all we see in the data, right? So don't feel bad if you pay a little bit over. You'll figure that you'll get there some point, right? We ain't going for a crash. I don't see it. But there are ways to get things done. You just want to be working with an advisor that's going to prepare you up front with your total budget. It just can make sense. So don't get discouraged out there if you're a buyer. More is going to come on the market, but do what you got to do and be prepared. I hope you guys have a great day.
Hussbus, bus stop.